These are my brothers, by the way.
Oh, you're kidding?
Well, yeah, that way we don't pay them.
Karen's got the family band.
Where do they play?
In Western New York.
Oh.
Yeah, but they make a living because people pay there to hear musicians.
They sound like a good bar band.
That's what's going on. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, welcome to the show, theirs and mine. It's the TMG interview, talking movies with those who make them. Paul Preston here along with Karen Volpe.
Hello.
I'm very excited to be talking to one of those do-it-all guys. Need a hero, need a jerk, need a leading man, need a character guy. Look no further than the man who plays Howard Hamlin in Better Call Saul. He's appeared on other TV shows such as Big Love, Desperate Housewives, 24, and Veronica Mars, and films such as The Last Exorcism and the new movie we're going to go into at length. Available now on all VOD platforms. That's your iTunes, Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, Vudu, etc. Called DriverX. It's Patrick Fabian.
Yay! Fantastic.
You're like a Muppet.
That is an intro. Thank you, man.
And that's condensed.
Wow.
We had 130 whatever credits on IMDb.
I've been passed around town, as they like to say. So, what are you going to do?
Well, we like where you landed.
Yeah, me too.
We'll get to Better Call Saul, too, later in the show. But let's start with DriverX. Now, it's being billed.
Oh, wait, we're going to start with DriverX?
Yeah.
I got to put on my official uniform that I brought.
Oh, very nice.
For anybody out there who remembers what this is on site.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Is that a members-only jacket?
Is that members
straight.
only? Yeah, it is. That's right.
We have one of those.
We got it for a costume, for a play.
Maybe I'll get it for the photo.
That'd be awesome.
Rarely have I been in a movie or anything where all of a sudden, literally, there's a moment where this is revealed and they punch in and they show the members-only logo. And if you're of a certain age, there's a ripple that goes through the audience that's one sort of laughing, but it immediately reminds you, oh, I used to be young.
Yeah.
Members only was cool.
That was very cool. My
Yeah.
dad had one. It was great. And when
Did he
wear
really?
it, he had like a light blue one.
Wow, he seemed like almost too old. Like he
I
wouldn't
know.
have been young
Well,
enough.
He wanted to be cool.
Trying to be
Right,
young.
yeah. He tried to be young in 1983.
Right,
Yes, well,
exactly.
Great.
So
Yeah, that is a
funny.
moment. I remember even when we saw DriverX, when the members only jacket came out. Yeah, the crowd was agog, to say the least. Now, this is what the Uber movie they're calling it. I saw that on the website even. They called it the Uber movie because it's kind of like the rideshare movie. So go ahead and just tell us what it's about.
Well, I mean, they're calling. You can't call it the Uber movie just because you don't want Uber to get involved if they,
Right.
if they don't like the way it's being portrayed. So it's a rideshare movie. Basically, it is about a man who is in the record store business at exactly the wrong time in history. It goes belly up, and he discovers he's on the wrong side of 50. And he has to start to pay the mortgage now, and he's not sure what he can do. His wife has to go back to work. There's role reversal, and eventually he's got to get a job. So he takes to driving rideshare in Los Angeles at night to save his marriage and, pay the mortgage. And what he discovers is that he's on the wrong side of 50 driving in Los Angeles at night.
That's a really good point because I don't like to drive in
That's 'cause
Los
no matter
Angeles
what-
at night.
No matter
And
what
I'm-
age.
I'm not driving other people.
After 50.
Yeah, at night is all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's midnight. I'm supposed to be asleep for 4 hours at this point. So.
And that's where you're supposed to start. That's where the fares start getting good for Lyft and Uber.
That's when things go crazy, as a matter of fact. The writer-director, Henry Barrio, this is based off his own experience, and I'm not speaking out of school. His first film, about a decade ago, was this very micro-budgeted, I think it was like $3,500. They got a couple of thousand finishing funds from somewhere else, and it made it to Sundance.
Wow.
And it was sort of a precursor.
What's it
called? It's called Somebody. And I think it was sort of a precursor to mumblecore in that sort of idea of the actors were improving, and it was very loose with the camera work. And it got Henry a lot of notice, which was great. So you would assume, hey, my first film goes to Sundance. It's just a matter of time until... And a matter of time kept going on. As we all know, being freelance artists, it always feels like it's happening to the other girl or the other guy. And, why did so-and-so become so-and-so? But it's a crowded business doing freelance. And anytime you're a director or a writer or a producer or anything, it's a crapshoot. And so he found himself in Leonard, the character that I play, in his position after, 10 years. He wasn't directing all the new episodes of Will and Grace, and his big feature career hadn't taken off financially the way he had hoped for. He'd been making films consistently, but they were all, smaller films. So he ended up driving Uber, which, as he says, probably would have crushed him in some respects because he found it to be weird to be a middle-aged man doing a job like this and all of a sudden feeling the rug pull out from underneath him. And he was like, what's going on? But being a screenwriter, he immediately was able to turn the tables and look at it as, because the dialogue that was coming out of the human traffic in his car was amazing.
Right.
So he was the producer, Mark Stolaroff, who does No Budget Film School, and has been doing that for about 10 years, which is really how to make a film.
And living by it.
And living by it.
Absolutely.
All you have to do is see his apartment, and he's definitely, yeah. Sorry, Mark.
That's awesome.
Let's go online. There's a 24-hour camera.
There kind of
Tune
is.
in.
But he has insomnia, and Henry would be driving at night, and Henry and him have collaborated on 4 other films as well, so they have a relationship. And they had this big budgeted, for them, like a $1 million or $2 million horror film that had been sort of egging them along for like about a year and a half. It was the payday. It was the thing that was going to really be good. And then, of course, it blew up. So then Henry starts driving, and then he starts calling Mark at like 2 a.m. saying, "You're not going to believe the ride I just had." And Mark's like, after a couple of those calls, he said, "I think this is our next movie." Mm-hmm. And as Henry said, people would say stuff to him that's in the movie, like, "Why do you do this?" And he said if he wasn't writing a script, he would have gone crazy.
Right.
Because instead they would say these awful, insulting sort of things to him. He'd be like, "Oh, man, that's great." And he'd write it down as soon as they got out of the
it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that is a line that stings when the guy says, "You make a living doing this?"
Right.
It's like, ouch.
Yeah. So, it's all about, it's all about how are you going to have the promise of the second act in America, right? Mm-hmm. And bookstores have gone through this, record stores have gone through this, radio stations have gone through this. Everything has sort of been good. Newspapers.
Yeah, that's amazing when that happens.
Magazines.
Yep.
Right. So all that stuff that we sort of grew up as cornerstone stuff on has been taken away.
Blockbuster.
And, in the movie, at one point, Leonard takes his record collection in. He's going to sell it. And that's directly from what happened to me. Oh. And by the way, I wasn't
brutal.
alone. No, I was living over in Silver Lake. I've got a wife and I've got 2 young daughters. And in my mind, and this is like I have loads of albums, but mostly I've got all these CDs as well, probably $20,000 worth of it. And it finally moved from my house into my garage in boxes. Mm-hmm. And I tried to make the mature decision, which was it's in the garage already. My girls aren't going to go rifling through my jewel boxes. It's an illusion.
Right.
So I'm going to do the mature thing, and I decided to get on the right side and go, I'm going to take it down to Amoeba in Los Angeles. And you know what? I'm going to get like $15,000 for this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a good thing.
Yep.
And I'm going to buy something for my kids. It's going to be really, really great. And so I box all that up, and I take it down there. And as I take it down there, I swear to God this is true, as I'm walking in, and I've got a cart, and I'm starting to pull this in, there's a guy who's in a van who's watching me do this, and he says, "How many boxes do you have?" I said, "I don't know, maybe like 20 or so." And he goes, "I'll give you $800 for them right now without even looking what you got."
Wow.
Right, wow. Am I offended? Are you kidding me? I've got $15,000 worth of stuff in here. I march it all in. I give it to the guy just like in the movie, and I'm like, "Here it is." He goes, "Great." And I walk out and I go have lunch, and it's going to take a couple hours because I got really good stuff, like a pristine Def Leppard from '83. You know what I'm saying?
Sweet.
Pyromania.
Sure, Pyromania. Some Scorpions Worldwide Live. I'm a suburbs kid from Pennsylvania.
That's brilliant.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's 2 albums, if I'm not mistaken. That's
is.
twice the money.
It is.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I come back, and he literally is like, "I'll give you like $600." And I'm like, "Right."
Oh.
I'm like, "What are you talking about? $600?"
The guy on the street will give me $800.
Right.
Oh my God.
But he knows that I'm not going to take him back out.
No.
And so he gives me a little bit more finally, and he says, like in the movie, he says, "Dude, these are coasters." And I was appalled. And as I left with the cash, there was another guy just like me on the wrong side of 40. And he was coming in with his first boxes to bring in there. And I thought, oh, right, this is happening everywhere. This is not unique to me.
No.
And Amoeba's literally was like, well, we can move these on to old age homes and VA hospitals because no one's buying them. And literally about 2 weeks later, I'm at the farmer's market in Los Angeles, and they've got like a Genesis album, and it's been melted and pressed into a potato chip bowl.
That's what you needed to do, figure out a way to make crafts.
Right? Oh, my God. So all of that.
The good news is they're not in your garage.
They're not in my garage, but the bad news is, ask me what I did today.
Bought a CD?
I had to go to Amoeba because I was
No.
trying to find a CD that I used to own, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be ironic if I go back into Amoeba and it's there, and I'm buying back my own CD? It was not there.
Thank
You
God.
sold for 600?
What's that?
You sold.
He
for
did.
six.
He wasn't going to take it all back out.
I'm sorry. I thought maybe you went, I will not stand for your low rates, and took everything home.
Oh, no, that's a
You
different,
sold it.
That's a different movie. You know how heavy that shit was? No way, man.
Well. And the $800 guy, he was gone.
Oh, he was gone. He was gone. He was gone. But he was there because he knew.
Yeah.
He knew. So, I mean, the movie touches on all what that feels like. And the idea of, like, I like to say it's the milk aisle thing. You're of a certain age and you've got kids, and at 5 o'clock you find yourself in a grocery store. And you're getting milk because you got kids, and maybe some bread because you got to make sandwiches for school and all that stuff. And you're in there, and all of a sudden they're playing "Slippery When Wet" from Bon Jovi, and all of a sudden you go, "Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
This fucking rocks." And then you look to your left and your right, like, what are these guys? What are these gray-haired guys? Oh no!
You see a reflection?
Oh, no! It's me. All of my music has been offloaded to classic rock.
It's 30 years is the thing, because I still think Chuck Berry's oldies, because I thought that in the 80s,
right,
and he was from the 50s.
Yeah.
Now it's 30 years since then. The 80s is the
God.
50s, and classic rock is Peter Gabriel. And
All I can hope for is
that's
that
all from Genesis.
the 80s fashion and hair come back, because that was my favorite era.
You like those shoulder pads?
I like
didn't you?
shoulder pads.
Sure.
I like big hair.
Every girl did.
Yeah, it was just a good time. And Mismatch and Pretty in Pink. Let's do that again.
There's
Do that.
not enough Aquanet in the world these days.
They probably can't make it because of the ozone there.
I did like the ownership of music, though. You know, having it there, and I mean, I've always liked liner notes. Kids' liner notes are what was written inside an album or
was a big
a
thing with a
CD.
disc in the middle.
And you would look at the picture of like the one of the albums of Queen with that crazy robot, and I remember
News
just
of the
listening
World,
to
yeah.
it and staring at that.
And I think that was
really
a
freaking
single
out.
album that you could still open up because the artwork was so badass.
Yeah.
But then I just felt like I had it. I have this, and you don't have this. Now you go online, everybody has everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Everybody has everything, and yet,
Yeah.
and the idea of going to a record store, like I was in Amoeba again today, and I was like, oh, there's a nostalgic, but there's a comfort. There's a comfort of going through and just trolling through the albums and looking at covers and like, what's this? What's going? Leonard in the movie has this exact monologue where he says, I wanted, people to be able to go through and discover new music.
Yeah.
And how do you discover new music? And it's of that. Of course, they're going to discover music. They're going to discover it in a different way. They're going to discover it in their own way that they too may or may not feel nostalgic. And it's me holding on to the way I know.
Right.
And so therefore it must be right. But in this case, I am is
You
the thing.
are right.
It's so much better
And there's just something else about the fact I have a prominent Italian nose, and I love smells. And there's smells involved with having the actual things. But with your computer, everything smells the same.
Oh my gosh, the smell test.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Well, you know that smell of having albums.
Oh, you can.
It's different.
All that cardboard,
Yeah.
all that stuff wafting up, the crack of the crease, the seam.
Oh, yeah. All of that. But you
Yep.
don't get any of that anymore.
Yeah. After the taping, I'll show you my cassettes.
How
I got
exciting,
them
everyone.
hanging on the wall behind the studio.
God, I used to buy singles. How about
Oh,
that?
I have some of
yeah.
those. Yeah. Yeah, and the one phrase I think they use in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, is mature aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the hell?
Ouch again.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think everybody goes through this, right? So it's a coming of middle age story, and every
Yeah.
generation goes through that, where they go like, "Wait a second," but I thought, and Leonard talks in the movie about not wanting to hand over the reins. Because all these young people are in his car, and he's just like, wait a second. I have something to offer, and it seems to have blown past him. Both,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And the sexual mores of the young girls and the young guys, it's shocking, right? Like it always is when the generation hands it over and changes.
There's a line from that in a little trailer clip I'll play here. So this is from DriverX.
Hi, I'm here for the online management position.
What unique thing do you bring to the table?
I bring a very deep knowledge and love of music, and I want to pass that down to the next generation.
How do you see music's impact on social media?
How did the interview go?
Hard to say. I'm twice as old as everybody there. Don't know if I'd be a good fit.
I need to talk to you.
About what?
We're out of money. Get a job. Any job.
What brought you to Los Angeles?
Dreams of happiness. What better place to do it than LA?
I'm scared about the future.
I'm scared about that too.
You think this DriverX business is gonna help? Forget it.
So now, hopefully 15, 20 minutes into the show, you realize DriverX is not some race car movie.
Oh, yeah. By the way, sorry. Yeah.
I want the trailer to fool you. It's better than that.
And also, did you notice in the trailer, it really struck me, the music's great in this movie.
Okay. I have driven for Lyft. I did it for about a year. It's been about a year and a half, but I did it last month for a couple of days because I'm kind of glad that it's just always there.
Sure.
I keep sending in my paperwork to make sure that my inspection and license and all that are up to date on file with Lyft. So if like, hey, I need, oh God, what breaks your heart is like the first night Leonard does DriverX in the film, he comes home and he's like, what'd you get? I think like $38 or something like that. It's like, that is so true.
Yeah.
And they don't pay you a gas stipend, and it makes you crazy because you'll work for 2 hours and you put it right back in your tank and you're at zero.
How crazy. And Henry wanted to make sure that the film wasn't one of those, it's a wild night in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it is not.
Because what he really wanted to make a movie that was true to, if an Uber driver or a rideshare driver saw this movie, they would walk away from it saying, yes, that's what it feels like.
Right.
And the 38 and change is what Henry made on his first night.
Yeah.
So that comes directly from him, and you know, like he said, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that this exists right now, and he also wanted to make something that was more true to what was going on, because he also feels, which I didn't even think about, you know, self-driving cars are going to come down. It's all a matter of like when.
True.
But at some point, this movie will look like a timepiece. Oh, you mean people used to actually drive the car
You mean
and
people
come pick you
used
up?
to listen to records and CDs?
Right. So the whole thing then becomes this, you know, meta, like, oh, I didn't even think about that. He goes, of course.
Okay,
I mean,
talk about meta. I got a DriverX soundtrack when I saw your screening in Santa Monica, and I use it in the car last month when I drove people around. They didn't even know
That's awesome.
that soundtrack was
You were having your own moment. That's brilliant.
because it is great driving
it's great
music.
driving
Oh,
music.
it's good. Lily Hayden, as a matter of fact, just won a Grammy with her other group, Opium Moon.
I saw that on the
Awesome.
Facebook page.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. Because that is cool music and moody, and you know whatever you can kind of go to the track that fits the mood of the person who gets in your backseat.
Sure, it does, and also, you know, it's tricky when you're doing an independent film in a low budget film, which is his. You know, we did a Kickstarter campaign for it as well, which was great. But all in, I think the whole thing cost about $130,000. Wow, which is amazing.
No kidding?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Well, you know, we had a great DP, Daniel Line, and he shot on a Sony AS7, which really soaks up the light. So we shot LA really great. But in terms of music's expensive.
Right.
You would think like, oh, I want an obscure song from a B-level group from 1982. Well, it's owned by like Warner Brothers. Everything's owned by a big corporation, and they have an assignation of like, well, that costs this.
Right.
And you either pay it or you don't. And so we quickly abandoned
They
the
don't
idea
care.
that we
No.
could use music from that time, which in the end I think is liberating, because we'd say that Leonard is a musophile, and then the music that Lily Hayden composed, and we had a bunch of other composers as well, the original music evokes that moment in time, but it doesn't distract from what we're talking about, because literally, honestly, right, for instance, I use the Bon Jovi reference, right? So if One a Dead or Alive comes on, we all go, oh, and we
Right.
start having our own memories about
Yeah,
it.
'cause we all
and we
have
start get
something.
transported, right?
Can I tell you mine real quick?
Yeah.
They opened for Rat in the second concert I ever saw. They opened for Rat.
So you would be
second
there in
concert
the
I ever saw
movie
in
and
my
no
life.
longer
Yeah,
here.
Right, he's
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
He's there in his two tight
I'm in,
jeans.
Bing, I'm in
at that point,
Binghamton.
right?
Binghamton.
can't sit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Binghamton.
Yeah, that's where I was.
A very pretty
Went
crowd,
to
I'm
the
sure.
went to the city. Went to the big city to see the show.
Yeah. Amazing.
But that music costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there's no way we could actually have it. And so I'm glad you like the soundtrack. I do too. And I think it matches tonally. We lucked out with that, because there's a lot of quiet in the film. There's a lot of pensive stuff, and you know, spoiler alert: if you don't like this face, the movie is very long.
You kind of have to be
It's a lot of me.
with that.
It's a lot of me.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But there's a lot of me sort of driving.
So
and
when
whatnot.
you're driving, you can't do a long shot, really.
No.
You got to be in close because
No, and we, of course,
You're
we
there.
couldn't afford to have a rig, so
No.
I drove everything.
Oh, my God.
And we had a camera mounted on the hood, or we'd have it mounted on the side, or the cameraman would be sitting in the passenger seat or sitting behind me. So when we do a ride, we would get out and drive in LA, and the people would get in the back, and then we'd basically cover it from like 4 different angles, and we got really good at like shooting for 20 minutes, pulling over, and they re-rigged the car. get back in. Shoot for 20 minutes, get over, re-rig the car.
You had some great supporting people in that back seat. There were really good actors back there.
Yeah, well, we got to call a lot of our friends. You know, you mentioned the
perfect.
guy who said, "Can you make a living doing this?" That's my Iqbal Thiba impression. Iqbal plays the principal on Glee, and I've worked with him on the Screen Actors Guild Union and stuff like that. So I knew him, and so Max Gale, who used to play Roja Hoitz from
I
Barney
saw
Miller.
him in
I worked with
that's
him
right.
on a movie called Underdog Kids.
So
which is
Oscar
a kids'
Nunez
film.
in there as well.
Oscar and I
yeah.
have been playing beach volleyball together for 20 years.
That's how you make it in Hollywood,
Yeah,
people.
man, that's-
beach
Hey,
volleyball.
it is who you know. I don't think
is.
anyone would deny that.
That's how I know Henry.
Yeah.
They're like, how'd you meet the director? When did they offer it to you? I'm like, well, I've been playing volleyball with him for 15
Yeah.
years. So it's true. You meet everybody at the volleyball court in Los Angeles.
But let me give you some kudos for this because you've worked with Mark, the producer, before, right?
I only did I did a cameo in him and Henry's 2 films ago, Pig.
Okay,
which
you were
is a science
credited
fiction-
together, so I didn't
Yeah.
know if it was a big role or what. But either way, we went to the screening of DriverX in Santa Monica, and it was billed as Ray Seahorn was going to be there from Better Call Saul, and Michael Mando was going to do trivia from Better Call Saul. But everyone was going to see the movie, talk about Better Call Saul, call it a night. You're there early. If you're looking at the mic situation,
Yeah.
you're talking to the staff, you're like roping off seats. Some people are there early because they're huge fans. You go and you talk to them. I'm like, this guy is like the real deal.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that some TV star could just show up late, talk, blah blah, and then leave. But you're invested in it, and I appreciated that.
Well, thanks. You can make the argument that I'm also so broken, I need everybody's approval. It goes right down to the person selling
Well, you got it
popcorn.
tonight,
Yeah.
so we're
Both of those
Yeah.
are very, very good. They're just different
But
takes on
different
the
takes
same
on
thing.
the same thing. But I will say,
all.
I will say this. People are like, do you mind working on low budget? And why would you do this? And it's that weird misperception of what the business is of working, and as a working actor. And I'm very successful. I've worked nonstop, passed around town. I've done show after show after show after show. But I haven't been a series regular up until recently. And I've been working for 20 years, job to job to job.
Yep.
I didn't become Brad Pitt. We all started off wanting to become Brad Pitt and George Clooney, but those roles were taken rather effectively by those gentlemen. And the rest of us, and when I say the rest of us, the guys who I would see in the audition room, time would pass and you'd forget. And then all of a sudden you look around, you've been working for 20 years, and you're like, oh, I'm already lucky enough that I've been working for 20 years. So I get a chance to be a movie star.
Yeah.
I get the chance to be in the movie star, just like when I was a kid and I went to the Capital City Mall in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, cinemas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Ooh, you had 6.
Oh, yeah.
We
I
only
know,
had
it was big.
4.
Yeah. And I would go there, and in that metal frame, there would be a poster, and you'd see it, and then you'd walk into the theater, and then you'd watch somebody on the big screen.
I got about 200 movie posters in those boxes, right?
You're right. And so,
I got a garage.
And so being in DriverX is the same thing. I went to Santa Monica and I went to New York. We played the IFC Theater on 6th Avenue.
Great.
And I go there, and in the metal frame, there's a poster of me. And then I sit down, and there's a full house, and it goes dark, and there's a movie. And I come walking across the screen, and I'm sitting there pinching myself. So this goes to your point of like being there to like help set up and do all that stuff. One, it's an independent film, so you want a cheese plate after the show, you better bring it.
Exactly.
And 2, I don't know when this moment of time comes around again. I got lucky. I got lucky to be in a film. It didn't get dumped on Netflix immediately. People don't have to watch it on their couch, although you can watch it on your couch now.
We encourage that at
We
this
do.
point.
On Vudu and iTunes.
Yes,
and other VOD.
But the idea of like, oh, we made a movie and it's actually playing in a movie theater just like a movie does. Oh, it's the real thing. Oh, it's great, and I get to be the lead of it. And this comes to the business aspect of it. I'm over 50 and I've worked really well, but CAA isn't going to come calling to turn me into a movie star at this point. Although if anybody from CAA is out there and they would like to do that, I'm totally available.
Big fans of the movie,
Yeah,
guys.
I love CAA.
It all comes down to I have a friend, we talk about this too, because there's so many actors out there and producers and directors and editors who are doing their art because they love it and they can't not do it. And so then you start to tell yourself, all right, what would the little 11-year-old me think if I were to tell them, hey, if you were to go to little 11-year-old Patrick and go, here's my movie poster and you can go to a theater and see this. That's really what it comes down to.
I saw The Man Who Would Be King.
Amazing.
And, I saw that on the big screen and I was like, wow, what's going on here? I want to be all of these men. And it's a sausage fest, but it's John Huston directed Rudyard Kipling story with Michael Caine, Sean Connery, and Christopher Plummer. And I was transported.
Yeah.
15, 20 years later, I find myself in a movie that has never been released. And Michael Caine is number 1 on the call sheet. I'm like number 146. And we are shooting in downtown Los Angeles next to MacArthur Park. We're doing a big scene. Rammstein has just played on the stage. I don't know why they're in the movie, but they were. And Michael Caine is exiting. I'm sitting with 10 other people at a table, and he says one line. We sort of react, and he exits. They do it 3 times, and the director says, "That's good, Michael, you can go." And he says, I hear him clear as day, he goes, "Is the scene over?" And he says, "Well, no, we're going to punch in for some coverage for these single lines here, but you should go." And he goes, "No, that's all right. I'll wait till the scene's over." And he said it with a way that shut the director up, or whoever was telling him that. I don't know if it was the director or not. And so Michael stayed. Michael Caine then stayed for the next hour and a half at the end of the day, so he could say his line and deliver his line off camera, so 7 of us at this table could get our cues and have a reaction to Michael Caine, as opposed to somebody else reading a thing. We wrap the day, we go out, it's nighttime, his trailer is next to mine. And I see his name on the thing, and I think, oh, am I ever going to... So I go up, and I knock on the door, and he goes, "One moment." And then he comes out, and he opens the door, and he sees me. And he immediately susses out what this moment is, because I look, my eyes are saucers. And I'm like, and he goes, "Yes." And I said, I saw The Man Who Wanted to Be King, and it made me want to be an actor. He goes, "Oh, a lovely film, wasn't it? I had such a good time doing it. I'm so glad you liked it. Did you have fun in there?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I had a great time in there." He goes, "Well, good. You seem to be fairly good looking, and you have a job right now. Best of luck to you." And shook my hand, dismissed me, and shut the door. And I was like, oh, my God. I mean, right. So, that was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
you have to lean into that squirrely stuff.
Right? I'm like, this is fantastic, and may I behave like him. And by the way, the next time it came around where somebody would release me, I was like, "Is the scene over?" And I'm like,
yeah.
I should call my friend Michael Caine and let him know I just did the same thing he did, right?
You're working with Ray, and you're like,
Mike,
"Is
guess
the scene
what?
over?
Yeah.
Do I need to stay and help her?" I will. No problem.
Let me tell you a little story about why I'm going to do that right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, that kind of leads us into, you said you saw the Oscars last night.
I did.
And so I was inspired a little bit by Lady Gaga's speech, the idea that you have to work hard and it's not a fluke, and the people there are because they chose to be there and they choose to. I don't think she's the one that. Did she say keep getting up? Yeah, and keep trying.
Yeah.
It was really the Rocky Balboa speech. Rocky gives that same speech.
Yeah.
It's not how much you get knocked down, but how much you get up again.
Yeah.
Keep fighting. Yeah.
I think that's how it sounded when she said it.
Yeah, she-
Exactly. I mean, she had a little more cleavage on it.
Yeah, that's the
Although,
whole
actually,
difference.
maybe not. I'd have to rewatch Rocky. He was pretty fond of his chest as well. So,
But how did you feel about the Oscars coming out of seeing them?
like any of those things, because I'm in the industry, everything you
I'll
need-
withhold comment.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. No, but it's that idea of it's aspirational. It's silly. It means nothing. It means everything. I reflect everything right back on me. Why am I not Bradley Cooper? Why am I not Lady Gaga? And yet,
I think you could be Lady Gaga.
I might be able to. But you see such talent up there, and you see the stakes are high, and they should be, because the stuff that I saw, like Olivia Colman is extraordinary in The Favor, and of course she deserves to get that. But this is show business. Glenn Close is a phenomenal actress.
Icon.
She's 71 years old. She's been nominated 7 times, and all the ink spilled about saying, well, it's your time. And in the end, if you're nominated for something, you still only have a 20% chance of winning.
Even if you're Glenn Close.
Even if you're Glenn Close.
Them's
And
just numbers.
Yep. So she sits there, and the camera's on her, and they don't call her name, and I see her face sort of break into a smile of like, and I thought, right, because she knows. How many parts did Meryl Streep get along the way that she thought she was going to get, or something like that? She must have somebody that she's always been like, oh, and it goes to her, and it goes to her. But has it stopped her from giving good work? Has it stopped her from sticking around with The Wife, which took, I think, 14 years to make?
Yeah, she said that was in production a long time.
So you hear that and you go, okay, so what makes her get up and go to work? And let's take money, and I get my picture taken out of it. Because she's an actress.
Right.
Because she likes to go to work. Why does Lady Gaga get to do what she does? I think on a base level, because she likes to work. Why did Bradley Cooper decide he's going to direct instead of just being handsome and make Robert Redford money the rest of his life? Because he wants to work and he wants to expand. Because in the end, the playground that we're in, and metaphorically it's Los Angeles, but it's wherever you are doing your art. New York, Schenectady, San Francisco, Houston. we get up to play because there's something extraordinary about that. And sometimes all the doorways open.
Right.
Sometimes it all is easy and great and we're doing something good and we're all good together and it's shot well and people receive it and they like it and we go, great. More often than not, it does not make you millions of dollars or financially change your life, but it's the mercury. It's holding mercury in your hands and it was great for a moment and it goes. And that is, for me, the magic.
Right.
And if you can grab that magic, it's worth getting a commercial call on a Friday afternoon
In Santa Monica.
And you have to go to Abbott Kinney.
Oh!
Right?
I don't go to the doctor if I have the 3
And-
o'clock call
right.
on a
And
Friday.
it's a 4 o'clock call,
Oh,
and you
Santa
know it's going to be there
Monica.
until 7, and you go like, ugh. And you know, as I've gotten older, the idea of like, is this? Until the jobs are coming your way, when they are offering you the job,
Right.
or they're going to create that project around you, which we all hope for. And we're living in Malibu next to Owen Wilson, and we just swap scripts over our balcony, or our butlers do.
Well, of course, the help.
And by
does.
the way, I just assume he lives in Malibu. For all I know,
Yeah,
he lives
who
in
knows?
downtown.
Yeah.
But you know what? And also, maybe he's like, I don't get sent enough stuff. But until that happens, in my mind, it's like, well, so what are the requirements for the job today? Not what you think about those requirements,
What
not
are
what
they?
you think whether you should. And I think this phrase always gets in my way because it's always true. Don't you know who I think I am? And they're like, yeah, we think you're really good. And maybe we saw your show and maybe we saw your movie or maybe we just saw the reviews or maybe I just thought of you for no particular reason after 6 years. All I know is that we've called you in for an audition. So the requirement for getting this job today, whether you think you should be handed it or not, is to put on your acting suit and go to Abbott Kinney at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you don't want the job, that's fine.
That's fine. You don't have to do that.
But if you're going to put on your acting suit and drive to Abbott Kinney on a Friday at 4, then do it with some joy.
Yeah.
And do it with the sense of possibility. Because most people will start to put on that cloak of, ugh,
Yeah.
I can't believe I have to do this. Or I'm mad. Or I'm angry. And even the stupidest of producers in the world who are sitting across the desk, who are trying to do their project to the best of their ability, can smell somebody's contempt when they walk in the room. And I know this from DriverX. Not that people were contemptible, but after all these years of, am I still talking? I am.
Yeah, but we still have a little bit of tape. Just a
Okay,
little
yeah.
bit.
After all these years
Tape.
of working,
So members only of you.
it's on the 6-hour record, right? Good.
The reels are. You see the reels going.
We chose 6 over 4.
God, so it's of higher quality, right? But I was on the other side when we auditioned The Wives for
I'll give her a
DriverX.
shout out. She was great. Tanya
Clark. Tanya Clark, who was on Banshee most recently and a bunch of other stuff. And I've been around for a long time. I didn't know Tanya. I had friends come in who I knew, some who had played my wife before, and I had chemistry with. And then there was a whole bunch of other people that came in. But I was sitting on the other side. You know, I had the job. I was going to do a chemistry read or whatever. And I realized in all this time, I'd never sat on the other side.
That
And
must have been so
if you
eye-opening.
have a chance to go sit on the other side of an audition,
I should do
actors
that.
absolutely do that, because what I found was human nature, all the stuff that I've been doing as well. People who walk in and telegraph immediately that they're not interested in getting the job.
Oh.
People who come in who are wired and crazy and not focused about their work. And then people who came in and I had a great time with, we had great reads with. I was like, fantastic. That's probably going to be what it's going to be, right? And then Tanya Clark, a lady who I had not seen or worked with before, comes in and does this thing, creates this magic out of nowhere, and she sets the bar like that immediately. And I felt badly for the next lady who came in, who was a perfectly fine actress.
Right.
But if she wasn't this, and you knew that within seconds, it was over. And it was very interesting to sit there. We all decided, Henry and Mark and I were like, oh, she's it. And no one came close after that. And for whatever that it was it the three of us at that moment after watching a couple of auditions? Did she weave this or that? Or I don't know. All I know is that this is going back to like your job. I would love my job to be Brad Pitt. It's not. My
Right.
job is to find parking and change clothes in the car. So if that sounds glamorous to you, then come on out and be an actor. But that's
That's true.
And your job and the thing that you get is that 5 minutes. And for that 5 minutes, you actually get to put on a play.
Right.
So when I drive to Abbot Kinney, instead of having a stick up my ass about it, how about I get memorized, I
Yeah.
get cold on the material, I get as much information as I can, I stack the deck in my favor as much as I can because it's an impossible thing to get a job. Stack the deck and go in with some joy and some magic and some, I don't know, go in and show them how you build a car. And maybe it's the car they're looking for.
Right.
Maybe it's the car they want to buy. Maybe it's not, but it's not your business what's going on the other side of the table. So you go in and you have 5 minutes to like show them, I know how to act. Given these circumstances with the script you gave me, this is what I think. This is how I conjure up stuff. And maybe it works for this particular job. But more importantly, you've got an actor, you've got a director, a producer, and a casting director who are witnessing whether somebody can work or not, whether or not they have the wherewithal to stack the deck in their favor and show me some magic. This particular magic may not work for this particular project.
Right.
That has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the hallways opening in your favor.
All right, let me ask you this, because I believe everything you're saying. Did you notice a difference when you auditioned for Better Call Saul? Because clearly we know how that turned out. Did you feel it, or did you just kind of get the stick out of your butt, do the best you could, and go home?
I've gotten hired for jobs I had no business getting hired for. Jobs
We
that I
all
would
have.
absolutely,
Yeah.
let's cash that check. Never hear anything.
No.
Okay, can I tell a quick story?
Yes?
Yeah, it's not. It's not quick.
You came all the
in
way
case-
here and
yeah.
parked. You can do whatever you want. Oh.
So,
I don't know if we're further away than Abbot Kinney or not, but tell the story.
Fair enough. No, you know what? I wake up one morning and I realize the phone's not ringing the way it used to.
Yeah.
Just because I hit an age bracket where all of a sudden, you're not the leads of stuff, whatever. All of a sudden, it dawned on me that I'd chosen to be a freelance artist. At the same time, I decided to have 2 children and a mortgage.
Ooh, you're a brave man.
Right, so I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then I get a call, and I have an audition for Dog with a Blog. It used to be on ABC Family.
I heard of that.
It's where the dog, I think,
Yeah.
is number 1 on the call sheet. And but my friends, Reagan Burns, he was the dad, and another great actress, she was the mom. But at first, I'm like, Dog with a Blog. Wait, I thought I was supposed to be Brad Pitt. What's going on?
Yeah.
And right, and so
This is Ocean's 14?
Right. So I have to get over myself because I'm like, oh, did they pay American money? Well, then good. That would help. My landlord would like that. So, and then I think, oh, my kids will like it. So I turn my ego around and I go down to the audition and I go into the room. I put my acting suit on and I show up and there's 20 of me. Some of those guys in the room have had shows of their own. Some of them have Emmys. And I'm like, oh, what? And all of a sudden I get cold. I'm like, oh, right, that's the business you chose. We're all, oh. Yeah. So then I go in, and the producers were not, they were not impressed with me coming in with my head shot like an old man. I had an 8x10.
So it was hard to know when to stop bringing mine.
Theater only.
I'd hide it in
Yeah,
my
theater
purse.
only.
Theater only.
And then I figured it out. You didn't have a purse.
So I walk in, I hand it to them. They're like, what is this? They have their phones and their hats on backwards. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I think her name is Elena Goldstein. I could be wrong. All I know for sure is that I love her so much because she was dressed. She was having an audition. She was dressed in a beautiful dress, and I think she had a hat on. And she looked at me and she said, without any irony, she goes, all right, Patrick, when you're talking to the camera, you'll be talking to this. And she points to the camera as if I'd never seen it. And then she says, and when you're talking to the dog, you'll be talking to me. And I realized all of a sudden, well, Elena showed up to have a thing, and she's not commenting on the material. And then, why should I? And
Right.
and what am I? All right, so I started doing my dance. Well, I do my dance, and I get a laugh. Worst thing in the world. So now I'm like, oh, now I'm really gonna. And the audition goes great. The audition goes great.
Okay, good.
And I'm like, fantastic. And I walk out of the room. It goes so great that the other guys who can hear me through those thin walls basically are like, screw you, man. And so I'm like, this is great. So I'm driving home. I call my manager. I'm like, hey, put a pin in me on this. I think I'm going to get this. And sure enough, by 5 o'clock, they put a pin in me. And I'm like, that's great. I'm great. And then I don't hear anything for about 3 or 4 days. And I do what you're never supposed to do. Never supposed to do. They have your number. They know where you are. So I call my manager and I'm like, hey, what happened to that pin on me and Dog with the Blog? And he goes, I'll call about that. Clearly, he has forgotten about it.
Wow.
I have nothing going on, so that's all I'm thinking about. And he calls back in 2 minutes, and he goes, they offered it to a Name Your Name.
A Name Your Name.
And I was like, oh, that's the business I'm in.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, special guest star on ABC Famous Dog with a Blog. And of course, my ego felt wounded and all those things that happened because I haven't figured that out yet, right? I'm still a big child with my heart wide open. And then 3 weeks later, I got an audition for Better Call Saul. And Another story on part of the story. I'd never seen Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, I saw the pilot of Breaking Bad. It was because my wife was 9 months pregnant with our first child, and we watched the pilot, and my wife turned to me and she goes, yeah, I'm not on board with this. Oh. And she was right. So we didn't watch that. And then we had a second kid, and I can talk all about Clifford the Big Red Dog for you and Super Y.
But you can't talk about
But I hadn't seen Breaking Bad. I, literally, as it went into its Emmy-winnings, 3rd and 4th, 5th seasons, the billboards, all that stuff, I sort of vaguely saw it, and I saw Bryan Cranston and all that stuff, but I had not watched it.
We didn't watch till
it was over.
The next to last season because that's the only season we were waiting for.
People started to get
binged
picked up.
and then we waited.
Well, we can talk about them winning the Netflix sweepstakes. That's when binging started after season 3. It almost didn't make it out of the gates.
Wow.
So I get this thing for Better Call Saul. Now, I recognize this is a big thing.
Yeah.
And the sides they gave me were basically 3 pages. It was 3 pages of sides with a 2-line character description. No script, no nothing. Huh. And I So I read that.
Interesting.
Yes, interesting. So I come down to my wife just after not being a namey enough name on Dog with a Blog.
Yeah.
And I go, how
Sorry,
I said, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to audition for this? This is like giving me a dart and putting me on a merry-go-round with a target 50 yards away. And so I'm trying to have a great husband and wife bitch, and she just goes, well, isn't that great? You can just make up whatever you want. I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Now you can do whatever you want.
So in the end, I'm like, and this goes to the nuts and bolts of I'm a working actor because I think like this. They're clearly going to give this to somebody. They're going to give this to somebody who is a name. They're going to get a movie star.
Namey name.
They're going to name me name
Yes.
for this. They're going to get a movie star for this.
Yeah.
This is Brian. This is Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould.
Yeah.
All right.
This has pedigree behind it, yeah.
But the casting directors, Sharon Bialy and Sherry Thomas, I hadn't seen in a while. Probably hadn't seen in about 4 or 5 years because that just happens. You get cycled through and then you become sort of the old shirt, and then they they see you again. They also were casting The Walking Dead, which was in, I think it's 3rd or 4th season. So I'm like, oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, there's lots of parts there.
I'm going for this Saul thing.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll just get like a 3-episode arc on The Walking Dead, and a zombie will eat me.
Oh, totally.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
So I go in for exactly that. And I go in and I see Sherry Thomas. It's her and a tripod. And I got to talk with her, and we're having a good time. And she says to me, these guys like it real. They like it real. So that's really the only note. And I'm like, great. So I do my lines immediately through the back of the camera, through the back of the wall, to the back of the imaginary stadium that I think I'm acting in. It's
I
giant.
see. Very theatrical.
Punching out.
Well, Shakespearean.
I'll never forget. Her eyes are a little big, and she goes, well, we got that. And she goes, they like it real. They like it real. And, after 27 years, my reptile actor brain can actually hear the casting director has given you the same note. You have not taken it.
Yeah.
Whatever you were doing, abandon it and do something different. Just show her you can listen. Right?
If nothing else, take her note.
Right? Just take her note. So I release it all and I do it. And then I walk out of there and I drive home convincing myself that might be good enough for a 2-episode arc and get eaten by a zombie, right? That might work. And then 3 weeks later I get a call and says, Vince Gilligan saw your tape. They want to test you. And then 2 days later I go and I test. And then 4 days later I get the call saying you've booked the part.
You didn't get called back. You just went right to test?
Went right to test.
Oh, my God.
Right. So, but I guess the point of that enormous story, if anybody is still listening.
I'm amazed.
Is this. I was amazed too. I didn't become a better actor between not getting Dog with a Blog and getting Better Call Saul. But for both instances, I stacked the deck in my favor and did as much homework as I could to go in and show them I thought this was what the magic was. It turned out I wasn't the answer for the guest star on Dog with a Blog.
No, that's
which is fine.
Fine.
But it turned out...
In retrospect, yes.
Right. But it turned out I was the answer, for whatever reason, for this.
Wow.
And so I go... For me, that's a 4-week spin, and that's what it's like to be an actor, as far as I'm
Unbelievable.
concerned.
And you're right. You didn't go study anymore. You didn't go and take some sort of crazy workshop.
And yet I get this life-changing job, and it's life-changing only in that I think that the perception. First, in many ways, it absolutely is, because the people I get to work with are fantastic. And I feel like the scripts are like actor proof. They're so
I was just
well
going to say,
written.
you get some really great scripts.
They
So
give
you're
me such beautiful things, such beautiful clothes, and
God.
such great partners to play with. Bob
Yeah.
Odenkirk
Oh, the
and Ray
clothes,
Seahorn.
you're right.
And,
yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I get to have that, and it's fantastic. It's so much fun.
You get to be, and you know how like in high school there are the cool kids and then there's everybody else? This show is the cool kids. Like you can do no wrong. It almost seems like a cool gang.
Oh,
and you
that's
get to
fun.
be in that cool gang.
Well,
of
I
people.
get it from a lot of quarters. I get it like I get it from like waiters and waitresses, and I get it from guys in parking garages who just stop and go, "Hey, love the show when it's coming back."
Right.
It's sort of like a real street level thing, which I
Yeah.
really like. And obviously we've been nominated for Emmys, and I've gotten to go all those shows and stuff like that, which has been really really fun. It's complete unicorns and icing and
Isn't that interesting? I love the fact that you are probably one of the most successful people out there right now at this level. And you're still going, I'm amazed to go to the award shows.
Well, how about this?
It's thrilling.
Thrilling.
Last summer, Karen and I were second row, Hall H, Comic-Con. Your first time there?
Oh, yeah,
Or-
we saw you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never been to Comic-Con, and
was
so
so
they
cool.
they launched season 4 down there. So I did not know what to expect, and it was billed. It was right. It was crazy. It
Hall
was
H,
crazy.
big deal. If you haven't been
yeah.
before, I mean, I'm sure that they told you, but
First of all,
Marvel,
like,
Star Wars, da-da-da, if you make it in there, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's 8,000 people.
And I
Great.
want you to know that I love Bob Odenkirk too, and Ray Seahorn. But I sat next to for hours because here's the thing. You have to go early, and then you sit through a bunch of other panels.
That
and
you didn't want to get to what you
No,
wanted, yeah.
oh my God, I saw
Marvel
anime,
video games.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah, anime.
Lord, help me! I was just sitting there like, kill me now. But we kept moving down, and then finally we got in the second row, a little off left, and I was sitting there, and I was like, "This is it. This is great. I could see everybody." And then the lady next to me, I started to realize why the seat was empty. She was so stinky.
Oh no!
She was super, super stinky.
Oh no!
So-
And those are the chairs with the sides that clamp it just so you can't move your chair.
No.
So I sat next to the stinky lady for a couple of hours, just smelling my own hair, and that kind of got me through. And then eventually, a couple of chairs opened up, and what I did is I moved left and left it open again, and then a nice lady came who smelled lovely.
Oh.
So by the
Thank you,
time I
nice
saw
lady.
you,
You were okay again.
Yeah.
But I like the trick of smelling in your own hair. Which,
Oh, God, you have to.
Guys and girls, make sure you condition yourself with something nice smelling in
When you
case
go
you
to
have to
Comic-Con.
use that.
Oh,
Yeah.
when you go to Comic-Con.
but that was really cool. You guys were great, and it was really fun. I think who else was there?
Oh, the whole gang.
The whole gang, right?
Carlo, Jonathan Banks. Oh, Jonathan
was
wasn't
couldn't
there.
He
make
was
it.
represented by something.
Yeah, we
Like
had
a bobblehead?
Bobblehead, yeah, from Royal Bobbleheads. Go to them. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that was thrilling, and it was great to like meet the fans, and the support has been so phenomenal, both like on the web and in real life, and you're right. Like we got to go to the Emmys, and another reminder. We go to the Emmys that first year we're nominated, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like we go to that carpet and I'm seeing all my heroes. I get to see Mandy Patinkin, who's walking down because of course he's on Homeland and he's Mandy Patinkin, and he's walking, and I thought, oh. And I step out. I said, "Hi, I'm sorry, excuse me." And he goes, "Oh, I love your show."
Oh my God!
And I'm like, "Oh my God,
What?
oh my God, right? Because I'm on TV too. Holy
You're on
shit!"
TV.
But what I wanted to tell him, I said, "I'm sorry, I don't mean." I said, "I just have to tell you, the first Broadway show I ever saw was Evita. I took a bus from Cedar Cliff High School, and we went to New York City. And I didn't even realize that you had to go under the river. I didn't even realize Manhattan was an island. That's how stupid I was. And I saw.
Well,
Evita.
we were from that part
I
of the
know.
world.
I said, and the curtain goes up, and then you and Patti LuPone put on this thing. I said, I had no idea what it was about, but when it ended, I was like, I want to do that.
I have no
And
idea.
he like just looked at me and he goes, "That's so sweet, thank you." And of course, then he's like, "God, why is this guy
I
talking
have
about
to get away
me? I
from
gotta
this
get
guy.
away." Yeah.
This guy's crazy.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, stay away from the diaphragm. It's Better Call Saul."
I got to go win an award, pal.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
But I got to do that. And I was so
Yeah.
thrilled, and and then we sit there and we watch, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing! It's really great." They put the logo up on the screen when we get when we don't win best show.
Congratulations, yeah.
Thanks. I don't care. I was like, I'm there.
It's really exciting.
It was
Yeah.
really
The one thing
exciting.
we did see before
yes?
Better Call Saul, I believe, was the Breaking Bad 10-year anniversary.
That was cool,
That
too.
was
Oh,
great.
right.
Yeah.
Just watching the montage of clips, you're like, oh, that's right. That show was amazing.
Yeah.
Like you kind of
Did
forget.
you ever get to see Breaking Bad?
Oh, as soon as I got the job, I
Exactly.
watched the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I would
Yeah.
think it helped. Yeah.
No, I watched the whole thing, and then the very first day I get to a table read in Albuquerque, and it's the first time I meet Jonathan Banks, and I walk up to him, I'm like, "They shot Mike," and he goes, "I know."
That was good.
Worst day of my life.
Oh my God, that's a great impersonation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then I joined the ride, and the ride has been so much fun, and I can't believe we got picked up for season 5. And at this point,
You better have, because I want to.
We have to know what happens.
Yeah, I think at this point, obviously, they're going to. The point is to link up to the beginning of the mothership.
Well, it is doing an amazing thing, because what I couldn't wait for every Breaking Bad episode was, what's Saul doing? Oh my God, it's so
love
funny. It's
Saul.
so interesting. And now that Jimmy's becoming Saul, I'm like, don't.
Oh.
I know. I don't want him to become Saul.
Well, it's sort of the
Great move. It's a great mastered move by
Yeah.
Vince
It's a
and
genius
Peter,
of the
yeah.
show. Absolutely. They're showing us another sort of tangled web of humanity and how people slowly, piece by piece, change and because people loved Breaking Bad so much, we got that benefit. At first, it was a double-edged sword. Like, what are you doing? But because Vince and Peter were in charge, and Jen Hutchinson and Tom Schnauz, such great writers, and they were able to concoct something that was in the same closet of Breaking Bad, but it's a different shirt and it's in a different area. And
That's such a great way to put that. Yeah.
because you're comfortable with it, and you're like, oh, I'm still back in the world I want to be in. But it's definitely tonally a different show. It's shot differently, and it's got a different color palette as well.
What would you say the genre is for Breaking Bad?
Boy, especially that last season sticks in my brain so hard. It feels like high opera, right? I mean, it's such an intense. I mean, the pace of the show of Breaking Bad was so rapid.
The stakes are so high.
Everything is important.
Yeah.
Everything, and I think everything is important with Saul as well. But the pace is decidedly more laconic.
And so that is part of the tilt in the shift in tone.
Which is interesting, though, because Saul's character is so loving and wonderful with those old people and so charming and comedic with them.
Yeah.
I love when he gets the lady her shoes in the
But
mall and all that. That's adorable.
You love when a Better Call Saul episode opens and he's like making cookies. You're like, oh God, what is he up to?
I love it.
Yeah.
Then you find out he's wooing the old ladies.
I love that.
But that's been the work, I think, for Breaking Bad fans, is to shift tone into Better Call Saul. And clearly, they've done it. We're on season 5.
Yeah, and in this last season,
And if you haven't, that's what I'm telling you to do.
no,
Join us if you haven't
All right,
seen it,
so-
because I don't get why anyone who has I haven't seen Better Call Saul. You loved Breaking Bad. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I think people they didn't want it to be tarnished, and and there are people out there who are like, meh. I'm not sure why, because it's a sister show. And it's finally crafted as well.
I call it a drama, but there's still a scene in the middle of one of the episodes from last season where the Salamanca brothers have to go in and just clean out this den of hoods.
Yeah, well, that was pretty dramatic. I would say that.
But that's the greatest scene in the world, because there's just an explosion in the middle of it, and Nacho's out there watching, just like, what? An explosion?
Like, how
a
did
huge
that
ball of
happen?
fire comes out. They're going to go in and shoot up the place. There's a huge explosion. I mean, it's just the greatest.
And then the next scene is all of a sudden like Kim and Jimmy in the bathroom brushing their teeth.
I love when they brush their teeth
So that
together.
kind of juxtaposition
Yeah.
is that weird thing where you're like, oh, I said to Jonathan Banks, I guess after season 2, where I was like, man, I really want to have a scene with you. He's like, no, you don't, Patrick. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you don't want to have a scene with me. And I was like, oh, right.
It's probably bad if you're alone
I
with
watch the
him.
show just like the fans
Yeah.
on Monday nights at 10 o'clock on AMC, coming this later summer.
Are you shooting right now?
We're going back in a week or two.
Oh, great.
Yeah, really
Perfect.
soon. And but I would watch the show, and of course, you do what you do. I read the script, so I know what's going on. But after it's, I'm not in it, I sort of let it go because I'm not there on the set. I don't watch it happen, and and that's why then I watch the show, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing in the desert again? Oh, there's an awful lot of gunplay in this. You know what I mean? Like my part of the show, there's like no violence, there's no guns, there's no drugs.
No.
So it's like it's two different shows for me.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
don't
what
want to meet up with any of those guys.
I see those tracks. I see Nacho and the Salamancas and Uncle Tio and all that. And then you have the law firm and Jimmy.
HHM.
And so,
and-
are they going to come together? That's one interesting thing to keep watching. Like, how does that all...
And here's the thing, these writers are so good, and I say that just because they are, and what they don't do is write stuff just because we kind of want to see it.
Yeah.
They
absolutely.
write where the story needs to go.
Right.
And case in point, who doesn't want Mighty Michael McKean on your show, every show, for the entire run of a show?
know.
But it became apparent
Not only where was his Emmy, but where was his nomination?
Oh
Yeah, that was sad.
And Golden Globe. I
No.
mean, God. it's
Yeah,
God, it's so
if,
good.
no, if you're gonna say that those things matter at all, then I also go like, how can you overlook that?
Yeah.
And that tells me like, oh, then not enough people were watching it, because I don't see how you watch even an episode of that without recognizing what he did in that. And I think the writers also quickly gleaned to that McKean and Odenkirk had a special thing going on, and all of a sudden that whole storyline took off. Mm-hmm. But eventually that storyline was done, and as painful as it is, and it was, he left. And I remember going back for season 4, the first episode, and we're standing out in front of Chuck's house, and it's it's burnt and everything, and in season 3. Most of my stuff is with Michael McKean. Yeah. And going into those scenes, I always felt like, oh, well, the scene's going to be fine because Michael McKean's in it. You know what I mean? That's what I always felt. And it wasn't really until we got to work that first day on episode 4, and it's Kim and Jimmy and me, and we're standing outside of the house, and I was like, oh, we lost our drummer. And it really sunk in, and it made me scared.
Well, I feel like your character is even changing because of that loss. And I love when Kim went toe-to-toe with you and told you what for.
Oh, yeah. That'd been coming for a long time. But there's an example of
That was
there's
great.
an example of Better Call Saul versus Breaking Bad in terms of the payoff for Kim giving me what for was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And fans have been looking for that, and that had been brewing and gestating. It wasn't a quick turn. And so when it came, it was so well earned and really devastating, for me. Also, because I love Ray Seahorn. I can't say enough about what a great actress she is, and how lucky I am to work with her as well. But she's a really great pal, and I've really become good friends with her as well. And so it's weird to have the Howard Kim dynamic, and to go to work, because we're such good friends, and then we get in there, and of course we're adversarial in a lot of the stuff, in the trial scene and. In season 3, where McKean gets up on all that stuff. She grills me. It didn't dawn on me literally until she stood up. She stood up from the prosecutor's table in that scene, and I swear to God, the hair on my neck got up. I was like, how dare you? And I was like, oh, that's some good writing. Thanks, guys. You've been working on me. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this to bring it all full circle. So now you are that guy who's on that TV show. So now when you go to Abbott Kinney and you audition, do you feel different at all, or do you still have to earn that next role from the beginning again, or do you feel like you at least are on second base?
I'm definitely on second base. I'm not gonna. Being on the show has opened. You know what it's done? It's opened doors that were closed to me before. But in the end, I still got to find parking, and I got to show up, and I have to audition.
Yeah,
and that's if you want the job. In my mind. There's a whole discussion of like maybe you should say offer only or this or that. But I you know what? I think that's also sort of changed as well. There's so much more work to be had out there, but there's also people in Iowa are auditioning with their iPhones, and you are in competition no longer with the people who trekked out to LA. You're in competition with the world. So I always think my chances are better if I go in.
Right.
And that's even going in as just a casting director or sometimes the casting assistant. And an iPhone turned sideways on a tripod. That's the reality.
That blows my mind.
Well,
I don't know if you guys know that, but you go to an audition, it used to be a big camera, and now you go in and it's just an iPhone. And I'm like, well, I could have done this at home.
Well, and you need to learn how to do that too, by the way.
It's like, come on.
Carrie Coon was talking about self-taping. Margot Martindale was talking about self-taping.
Yeah.
And how you have to, there was a time where all of a sudden you went from black and white headshots to color headshots.
Yes,
and
it's the same thing.
And people are like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
Well, you don't have to do that again. But the job requirements today are, if you want to be an actor, you better learn how to light yourself, mic yourself, and tape yourself. Figure that out. No one's going to do it for you. And,
we do that right here. Where you're saying.
We built a room.
Right. You want to have a show?
There you go.
Have a show.
And we do our auditions.
Yeah. And by the way, this is just one guy's opinion on it. In the end, I think my chances are better if I go in because I might get a piece of information from either the assistant or the casting director or from even another friend who's auditioning with me who are like, oh, yeah, they don't want it like this or something like that. And that sort of live information can't be beat. I also like the idea of going somewhere to audition. And that's just the muscle that I have built. Oh, I'm auditioning at 2 o'clock? Great. Around 10 o'clock, I get my game face on. And I know what I'm doing because there's things that I do in order to stack the deck in my favor. Getting there early, traffic, green juice, not having a lot of food, making sure I'm memorized, the basics. But I've gone into rooms now on the strength of I'm on Better Call Saul. And that is
And
with...
that opens that opportunity. So you
yeah.
still have to show up and kill it, but at least now they're thinking of you. And I think of it like high school. There's the seniors, juniors, and maybe before you were sophomore, freshman, but at least now you're getting the opportunities that the seniors or at least the juniors have.
Yeah, yes. No.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. But also, I believe that there's a window where that occurs.
Right.
And also, so
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I love you on Saul. And then you come in and you lay an egg, which is all you're always capable of doing.
Yeah.
And guess what? Maybe that window closes again. They're like, oh, he's really good in that role, but... And people keep talking about, I get questions like, well, what do you want to do next? And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't ever want to stop doing this show.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the fear of as soon as you get a job, you're like, the job's going to be over. That still runs through all of us. Yeah. And so the idea is like you want to build on it, but I'm not exactly sure how you build on it any more than what you've been doing, which is trying to cultivate friends and cultivate what's going on and getting
And
your ear to
playing
the
beach
ground.
volleyball.
Playing beach volleyball, yeah.
Though
yeah,
I
yeah.
do want to say that I'm looking back again at the Dog with a Blog epic story. But here's the thing that's so cool. So you didn't get Dog with a Blog 3-episode arc, but then you got this, which is so much better. But had you not maybe felt like you had to do better next time from Dog with a Blog, you may not have gotten your
I think
ducks in a row for this.
if I hadn't put my acting suit on to say, what's this opportunity about?
Yeah.
Then maybe when 3 pages of a show, I would have dismissed saying, well, they're going to give it to anybody anyways. I'm just going to stay home.
And then,
And they didn't give anything to anybody. Michael McKean's the only name.
No,
Really.
sure.
And then,
No, no.
obviously
That's what's
people
so
who came back
magical.
from Breaking Bad.
No,
so
Yeah.
good thing you didn't think yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I have no shot
well,
because they're going to get, people were
I'm my,
Kiefer Sutherland. or
I'm
whatever.
my own worst enemy all the time.
Right, of course,
I'm
of
already
course.
talking myself out of the job.
Yeah.
I'm always showing why I shouldn't go and
Right.
what I shouldn't do and blah,
do you
blah,
think
blah, blah.
do you think we do that so that we don't feel bad when we don't get it?
Yeah, but I think it's
But it's going to shoot
bit
you
of
in the
protecting
foot.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a self-sabotage. You're
It
like, I am
totally is.
still, when they used to say, Olivier still threw up before he went on stage, and you go, no, he didn't. I'm like, of course he did.
course he
I
did.
get it, because even if you're playing at like a super A level, don't you think those guys are like, oh, wait, they gave it to him?
Yeah.
But Olivier
How
also
come I
has,
didn't
like, I'm backstage
Yeah.
going, I hope I do good. And Olivier has to go, I hope I do as well as Olivier does. I mean, I would vomit.
That's true. We still have something to aspire to.
What's the craziest internet stuff out there you hear about Better Call Saul? Because I mean, every Q&A I go to, they're how do you think you're gonna die? Because you're not in Breaking Bad.
Oh, I get that a bunch.
As if like everybody died, like a nuclear bomb went off and only
do you
Jimmy
think
and Jimmy and Jonathan Banks lived.
Well, they really hammer Kim with it, which is
Yeah.
and like I said, it preys on your brain because you're like, right, we're not in Breaking Bad, but these writers are very creative. There's lots of possibilities where none of that happens, and I have no inkling of where it's going, how it's going, for our characters, but I have infinite faith in these writers to have whatever denouement is. And by the way,
Absolutely.
like life happens. Maybe just the storylines just fade away from HHM, and
Right.
we don't see Howard much anymore. There's no reason that he has to be, tortured to death. Although I will say,
I do
maybe I
wanna
don't,
see that.
maybe I don't want to see
do.
Jonathan Banks, but I would kind of love to like have a suit off with Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, we love him.
I think that would be great if there was just a moment where somehow him and I are together and we compliment each other on our suits.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
So great to go back and watch Do the Right Thing and go,
That's him.
How about that, right?
yeah, it's bugging out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't know what's going to happen when it comes to that. And
But it's crazy. Everyone thinks you're
sure.
gonna die.
No, the internet and the
They're
internet's
sure
really-
you're gonna die.
And now that we're into season 5, people are really like, "Oh, what's going to happen to Kim, Howard?" And I keep pitching that maybe Kim and I we go to the Caribbean and we start a pro bono law service, and the Travel Channel picks us up, and it's just about suntan lotion and bikinis and board shorts, and then we show up. And by the way, who knows what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's all in good hands. Do you even improvise on the set? Is there a need?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It's like getting a Coen Brothers script, right? You don't even touch it.
But that's so kind of awesome too, though, to know that you don't even have to worry about doing anything other than what's written.
No, those writers spend.
That's
There's like
amazing.
10 writers, and they spend time figuring out whether it's a period or a comma, right? I mean, that's what writers do.
So
That's
you
what
are
good writers-
memorized down to the.
Oh yeah. And we'll get the script, and at that point, what's great about it though is if you have questions, or you have logic, or you have because now you feel like you own your character a little bit.
Interesting.
So
yes.
you want to say like, hey, can I pitch this, or can we talk about this scene, and can we talk about this sentence? I was wondering why I'm saying it like this. I was thinking maybe something like this. But first of all, I almost never do that because I'm not a writer, and I respect the writing, and I respect that writers put hours and hours into what's going on. And my job, the way I look at it, is as an actor, they've given me a template. They've given me the keys, and the keys are Howard is not. He's not putting a comma here because he's putting a period because his thought is finished.
Right.
Now, why is it finished? My job as an actor is to figure out why his job is finished, not making it easier for myself. And if it's a comma, not to make it a period.
Right.
Howard's thought is not finished. Why doesn't he stop right there? Oh, he continues on. Is it because he can't help himself? Is it because he has a point to make? Because he think he wasn't heard? And I like that stuff.
That's meaty.
So so if I get a script and I look at something and I have a question, the first thing I do is take my cues from Ray Seahorn, who then, you dive into it and you do your script analysis. You do your work. You stack the deck in your favor. You go like, well, what about this, this, and this? Can I do it like this? I can and can and can't. And then, you can write an email or call them and you talk to the writer and the head writer, Peter or Vince, and you loop everybody in. You say, here's the things I'm thinking about. And then they're writers, they love to have a full-throated discussion about this or that. And,
that's helpful.
Or they'll be like, oh, well, this is what we're illuminating, or this is where we think things are at. And you go, I didn't.
Because then you can get inside their head, and now you're like, I see.
Now I see. Oh, now what you're seeing. I'm just an idiot actor, and I didn't figure it out. Oh, you wrote it in English for me, and I still couldn't figure it out.
I would always
Thanks.
think that too. That I'm just missing something. So can you please explain it to me?
So you got to do scansion on these scripts. They're so well read.
Well, it kind
so
of
well,
like
well
Shakespearean.
written,
kind of. There's a great rhythm to it, and and like anything, no matter what show you're working on, the time to have that discussion is not when you're on set ready to shoot. I think.
Right.
I think that becomes a time waster, and it puts people in a bad position. So, I think almost any show that you work on, you can have an opinion as long as you get it out there in the proper way, in the proper time, in the proper channels. Because, things are built like that to work. But with these guys, I feel like, say the words as written, wear that suit as designed, and don't bump into the furniture. And
and you should be good. Yeah,
I've been
don't
good
hit
so
the
far.
mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Well, you've been on like 1,000
God,
shows.
I could. Yeah.
Let me pick like 3 and give you one question each about them.
Sure.
The Last Exorcism. Actually, this isn't a question, but you were the lead in that.
Yeah.
So did you think, my Brad Pitt moment? Oh. The Last Exorcism, by the way, if you don't know, was like the first movie to come along. Like now it's a big thing to have everybody's body contorting in these exorcism movies. That was the first one that did it.
Yeah, Ashley Bell. And by the way, that's her doing it. It was a low-budget film. That's,
no way.
No,
Like the full back contortion?
Oh, yeah, no, the back
wow.
the back contortion and the stuff like that. Yeah, that was hers. And that was discovered.
Gymnast?
We were shooting, and one day she goes, I can do this, by the way. And she showed it to the director. They were like, yes. Yes. Don't do that if it's going to hurt you. Let's get a camera up on that. Ashley Bell was so great. I mean, there's no acting in that film for me because I just walked in and saw her bend over like that, and I was like, what?
What do I need to contribute to people being creeped out?
Yeah.
We have this.
Oh, that's
Yeah, no, it
amazing.
was really fun. Daniel Stamm directed it. Eli Roth was executive producer on it. So was Mark Abrams. It was a very low budgeted film we shot in New Orleans in like 21 days, and talk about the doors opening, the hallways opening. At the moment, there was no horror movie out in that summer, and all of a sudden we got a wide release. Lionsgate picked it up. And all of a sudden, we're opening in 2,600 theaters, and we were #1 for the weekend in the box office, and it made about $70 million worldwide. I got to fly to London and go to the Odeon in a house of 800 and screen
Again,
it.
11-year-old Patrick would have been like, "This is
Are
amazing."
you kidding me? Yeah, but I had no illusions about that being my Brad Pitt moment.
All right.
I mean, it was a horror film. It was a really well done one, and I was really psyched to be a part of it. There's no doubt about that. But there is a thing of like you're like, oh, well, I've done TV for all these times, and now I'm in the movies.
Now
I
you've
guess.
switched into movies,
Right? But the business shrugs, and goes, hey, the horror movie made some money. Good for you. Who's the girl with the back bend?
we like the backbend girl.
Yeah, and
She came back with a sequel.
and then I went back, and I went back to parking and finding stuff. And by the way, I'm not complaining about it. It's what I signed up for.
But it's the job. It's a thing that we have to remember. That's what acting is.
Yeah, Frank Langella won a Tony one time, and Frank Langella, I don't think I'm speaking out of school, is not known for his humbleness necessarily. And by the way, can back it up with the work he's got. But he won a Tony, and he got up on stage, and he seemed genuinely surprised. And he said, I just want to thank you very much for this. This is a big surprise. And he goes, and as you all know, the spotlight constantly moves. And we can try to run as fast as we can to keep up with it, but we never can. And so on this moment, on this night, as the spotlight is on me, I just want to say thank you. And I was like, whoa.
It's true.
But it was a great image of like, things are good right now and everything's really great. Hey, you're in a movie, you're in a horror movie, it's great, it made money, and now
Running after the spotlight.
now it's pilot season, time to go out, right?
Go out again.
Yeah. And so I don't know if there's really, I'm sure there's like literally like life-changing, like, and then, well, yeah, The Fast and the Furious, they made that film, they weren't sure what was going to go on, and then they all basically bought houses.
Yeah.
And became giant movie stars, and that's a life changer. I haven't had necessarily that, Shazam. I've had great jobs that I thought were going to do stuff, and then they didn't necessarily happen. Or I've been on shows where the other person becomes something, and that happens all the time, right? Or you audition for the thing that you're like, oh, who's going to watch a sitcom that's just called Friends? That's so right.
You did not audition for that.
Well, we all did.
Did you really?
Well, sure I did.
That's
I auditioned for that, and I didn't get that. And I'm like, well, that's just a sitcom. And then I auditioned for ER. I didn't get that. And I'm like, well, it's just a doctor show, right?
There's 100 of those.
Right.
Like at Chicago Hope and all these other ones.
Oh, right. But I wasn't alone. Like all my friends, we also auditioned for it.
Oh, it's
but the
awesome.
right guys got the jobs, right? I mean, the right actors got the jobs. It's the only way I can think of it. Otherwise, you will go insane. Because you go like, oh, okay, make me... put me in there instead of Chandler. Does it work? Or does the whole thing collapse? Or on tape night, they go, Instead, they found the right mix, that magic, that puff. So I don't think you can begrudge other people's success, because I think that'll eat you up and kill you.
Absolutely.
And it's something I fight all the time and have fought all the time. In the end, especially now, there's so many ways that you can take more control of your career, not ask for permission. You've got these phones, you've got lenses on them. You can make a small movie, and you'll eventually be able to distribute. I don't know what's going to come up as things start breaking down, and I don't know what network is going to be anymore.
Isn't that interesting?
So
Yeah.
eventually, maybe the lack of permission from someone to tell you can do what you want to do is you can just go ahead and do what you want to do, and you'll eventually find a stream where you can find 40,000 people on the earth who like what you do and are going to subscribe to it for $10 a month. And can you live off of $400,000 a
I
month?
think you'd be fine. Yeah.
By the way, I'm not sure if that is the right math.
I don't know the math.
I don't know.
But you're absolutely right.
Sounded good to me. I would have signed up. Here, sign me up, man.
It's not just the people that can get that channel when it's broadcast anymore. It's all over the world.
It's all over
so
the
you
world.
can reach an audience somewhere in Zimbabwe that loves what you do.
Right. And if you can find that and cultivate. Now, granted,
Right.
guess what that is? That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
And I don't know about you, but I'm lazy, and I still want somebody to be like, "Here's 26 episodes on the
Yeah.
air in a parking lot, and
and you
parking
show
space."
up park here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was joking. Somebody was like, what do you want to do after Saul? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm working with these great writers, great wardrobe. It's really fantastic, and I think I want to do whatever Dick Wolf wants to do next. And if that means moving to Chicago and rooting for the Bears, I'm all for
Whatever
it.
it is.
Which then people are like, they get they're abhorred. They're like, what? What about your art? I'm like, I don't know. 22 on the air
You've
sounds
done
like art to me. Yeah,
so you did art for all those years.
I got 2 kids going to college.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Did you have a Leonard? Did you have a Leonard moment in your career where you said, "I got to get this job to get some money coming in"? Lean time. What is your lean times job that you're like? Oh,
Yeah, because there's some
I
people
did
that are acting coaches, or some people have acting classes.
Yeah, but there's some people who
I
deliver pizza.
That's
I
true.
did not
Which
deliver
is
pizza.
noble, but I mean, if you're we all have those
we
jobs.
all have
Come
those
on.
jobs. All right.
Yeah. I worked at a CVS.
I waited tables when I first got out of college, and I did all that. And after I got my equity card doing Shakespeare Festival here in Los Angeles, and I got
great.
my shampoo commercial, gave me my equity card. I mean, my SAG card.
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Head and
great.
Shoulders with Peter Spears. We shot it at Union Station downtown in Los Angeles.
When I think shampoo,
right.
I think Union Station.
Be looking for that online
Yes.
later tonight.
Oh my God.
Brilliant.
But then when I finally booked my first gig, and then I got a pilot, I quit my job because what's his name? he ran NBC during the glory years of Friends.
Tinker? No.
Brandon
Zucker.
Tartikoff?
No.
That one?
Afterwards, no, we're all going deep
Littlefield?
diving. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Warren Littlefield.
Warren Littlefield.
I had done a pilot. I did a pilot with Kathy Kinney and Judge Reinhold. It was a half hour, and I'd booked it, and it was all that new stuff of like, oh, I got a dressing room. They sent flowers. Oh. I got a paycheck, and it was tape night, and everyone's laughing, and they're all loving it. And Warren Littlefield, and he does. I got a chance to say this to him. I said, I quit my job because of you. And he's like, well, why is that? And I'm like, well, you gave me my first pilot. And I said, and we were on the floor that night, and everyone was laughing and everything. And he said to me, he goes, oh, you can go buy a house. I love this show. It's going to run for years. Well, he's the president of the network. I figured, so I quit my waiting tables job the next day. And I'm like, great, I'm out of here. And they're like, you can't stop. You can't quit. You have closing on Monday. And I was like, no, I'm done. So I stopped waiting tables, and then I waited for the pickup of the show that's going to run for 5 years.
Knows.
And of course, like a week and a half goes by, and I'm starting to sweat bullets. I'm like, what's going on? And finally I call my agent, and they're just like, oh, she's like, oh, honey, that didn't get picked up. But they never do. That's all right. We have an audition for you for a guest star and blah, 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 blah. Can you make it to Paramount tomorrow? And I was like, what?
She never called you to tell you that didn't.
Well, they had to wait and wait, and then and it was that whole idea of I wasn't sure what to do, and my friend said, I guess you have to get another acting job. And that thought had not occurred to me. The thought hadn't occurred to me that it wasn't you get a job. It's you have to keep getting a job again and again and again and again and again. And that goes for people who get on series and run them for 8 years. Right. When that series is over, they're looking for a job. And they have their own sort of special circumstances of like why they feel it's stacked against them.
Well, yeah, now they might have too much notoriety in one place, and now you can't have them show up.
You could do that. Yeah, so the great gift of the business is you can find a bitch no matter where you are.
Always something new to be against you.
You didn't buy the house, though, right? I've heard about that guy too.
No,
you quit the job, but you didn't buy the house prematurely.
No, I didn't do that. And
that has happened.
Yeah. No, but I've cobbled it together ever since, basically.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pushing Daisies, Life, The Mentalist, Star Trek, Voyager, Boston Legal, Millennium. Nashville, love that show.
I love Millennium.
Okay, Millennium, actor choice. So I played a guy who gets fried by an E-meter. And Charles Nelson Riley, God rest his soul, is playing. He had an arc on that, playing a detective. And so, anyways, I get fried, electric shock. I'm like this. I decide I'm going to be dead. So I get this really horrific frozen thing on my face.
Oh, no.
Of course, not realizing, well, now they're going to go in for Charles Nelson Riley's coverage. He's the guy who shows up to the scene of the crime. I'm a dead body. I have now established that I've got this frozen face, and they're putting glycerin for a single tear down me. And Charles Nelson Riley is walking around with this giant 3-page monologue that he cannot remember.
No, of course not.
No, he can't remember. No. And not only does he not remember it, but he blows it by swearing like a sailor every time he screws it up. So he'll be coming around and doing it, and he's doing it. He goes, oh, fuck, shit. And so they have to start at the beginning. It takes forever.
And you're making this crazy face the whole time.
I was like, I didn't need a masseuse to get my cheek to come back down.
My God.
So much fun. He was such a good man. He was
That's
such a great man on set because obviously I was a young actor, so green. And he saw that. And he immediately was like, do you know this play? Have you seen this movie? Every young actor should watch this movie. You should study this. He was like, every day, he was like, you should read this, this, and this. Because I was thinking about you last night. You young people don't know enough. You should see Montgomery Clift. You should watch A Place in the Sun. You should watch this. You should watch that. And I was like, oh. So I got my education, sort of starting off with there,
We like Lance Henriksen.
I love Lance Henriksen.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan, go upstairs.
That was my favorite part.
What he always said.
He always sent the
He
kid
had
out
the daughter.
room.
He always get the kid. You know something's going to go down. Jordan, go upstairs.
What did you do on Big Love?
Big Love, I got to work with Bill Paxton. I played Gene Triplehorn's brother. So I was his brother-in-law.
Right.
And I cannot say enough about Bill Paxton as being number one on the call sheet. They say the fish stinks from the head down, and there's no doubt about that. And Bill was so effervescent, so fun to work with, and came so prepared. First day of work, I show up with him. I had my sides from the trailer, and I'd made a couple of notations, we'll call them. Or we'll just say I circled my lines. And I show up, and Bill has got... He has covered every inch of his script with something. He knew his character. He knew what the scenes were about, and if he had questions, he had copious notes about. Wow. And I'd been working for a little while, And all of a sudden I was like, oh, you want to be number one on the call sheet? That's how you become number one on the call sheet. And I really took it to heart. I was like, right, you do your work.
Yeah.
There's Bill doing his work. He's not just walking in and saying, I'm Bill Paxton.
Right.
The reason he's Bill Paxton is because he does his work. The reason Lady
Bill
Gaga,
Paxton.
right? And I love
Bill
him.
Paxton.
It was so much
good.
fun to talk with and work with. And, and I'm so sorry he's gone.
Yeah,
I'm really
I
fortunate
agree.
I had a chance to work with him.
Yeah. 62 or something.
Yeah.
That
Too young.
Sucked.
Oh, yeah.
CSI, Will and Grace, Hot in Cleveland, Beverly Hills 90210, Ugly Betty, Longmire, and much more. But I want to play a clip from Scorpion because on
Oh,
CBS.
oh my gosh. I'm Captain Stubing with a gun. Show him.
Well, this is my friend Michael Filipowicz
Our friend
played the
is the bad guy.
bad guy who took over the boat in this where you are the captain.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in here. I've talked to him.
he's
a
great.
friend of mine from my acting class. And I have to play this clip because it gives me such joy.
All right, everyone, please do not panic. Everything is going to be absolutely fine.
And I had just started to hate Howard Hamlin, and I saw this clip, and I went, you clocked Howard in the back of the head, and then
he
he punched him in
does.
the gut, and you knocked him on the
He
ground.
beat you. Right?
Yeah, he beat me hard.
Great.
Yeah, I didn't like that. But I did get to dive into the ocean and come up from the water with a gun. That was fun.
Oh, we didn't watch that part.
Absolutely
Yeah.
That's
fine.
sorry.
That's all right.
Let's hear Howard get hit one more time. I just enjoy it.
So, do you go back and then get all the passengers safe again? You can come back to your ship and take it over?
No, I was in on it, I think.
Oh,
I think I was in on it.
Okay.
They hit me. I think later on I'm like, hey, you really hit me too hard, that sort of
I
thing.
saw a scene later.
That's awesome.
I only saw a
Okay.
couple scenes because we're working on Michael's reel, and he put that scene, and then the scene later where he's got some rocket launcher taken out of helicopter
Yeah,
or something.
no,
I'm
he's-
like, geez.
yeah, we
he
went-
was no joke of a bad guy.
No, he went crazy. He was really good. He was really good.
all right. That's
So let's
funny.
ask you the question we ask
Oh, yes,
everybody
this is
who
important.
comes on the show.
Yeah.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Well, I said The Man Who Would Be King because it was so seminal, and I always watch it every time I get a chance to. I know it's not allowed,
It's
but
hard.
You can
yeah.
say that.
no, yeah, I say that, but I also say, and it's
Most everyone says, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
no. I think of what hit me. Alien hit me.
Oh,
As a horror
all right.
film on the big screen, I was mesmerized by its beauty and everything else. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I will never turn away from, no matter where it's in. I think everybody in there,
Even
is
during
firing.
raindrops keep falling on my head.
I don't mind that. I don't even mind that. How about that?
That's how good it is.
We've had somebody else say it. I can't remember who it was. They had Butch Cassidy.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Hannah and Her Sisters was always my go-to, and it's that whole revisionist thing of, can you like people's art with what's
Yeah.
gone on, and that's a whole different discussion. But Michael Caine and Barbara Hershey are magnificent in that film, and actually Max von Sydow, Barbara Hershey comes in, and it's when he discovers that she's been kissing Michael Caine, and she comes in, and he's like, "Where have you been?" And she's like, "Oh, I was out." She's lying because she'd had an assignation and everything. And he goes, "I've been watching television all day. I haven't watched TV in a long time. Everybody wants money for Jesus. If Jesus came back right now and found all the money being made in his name, he'd never stop throwing up." And I thought that was the best line I'd ever heard, and it's great. Then he discovers that she's been kissing somebody, and he's wounded. And I remember watching him and Michael Caine because they seemed so old compared to me, and they were so vulnerable and open about their emotions, and it really stuck with me. Obviously, I saw at a point where all of a sudden all that made sense, So I love that.
I remember a specific Siskel and Ebert show, which I never missed growing up.
Sure.
Where they dissected how good Caine was in the movie. There's this one scene that's over his shoulder of Barbara Hershey, and he's pleading with her and having this huge. And the camera's never on her, or never on him, and he's fascinating just from behind because you get what he's. You can see the intention
it.
in his lines, and his whole body is feeling what he's feeling. And I can't remember if he was, begging. Wanting love from her, or if he was.
He's trying to
chewing
convince
out
her to
his-
stay with him, and she's like,
Yep.
"No, I can't do this.
Okay,
I
you
can't
remember
do
that
this
shot?
anymore."
I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, and then he can do that with his back to the camera. He's still good.
Right.
Caine.
Very beginning of the film, it says the cue card comes up and it says, "God, she's beautiful," and then the Harry James Orchestra goes wham, ba-da, ba-da-da, da-da, da-da, and Michael Caine's voiceover comes in and goes, "God, she's beautiful." I remember that so well. Yeah.
I'm going to put that as your number one, even though I loved Alien too. And I saw Alien for the first time at home on TV with commercials, and I still was in the parent. I was still in the parents' bed that night, going, I don't know what I just saw, but it freaked me out. That's how good that movie is, even with commercials.
Wow,
it was something. Well, Howard, that'll just have to be your cross to bear. My favorite.
Oh my God, so devastating, so devastating.
That wraps another TMG
Nice.
interview. Follow us on Twitter at The Movie Guys, Facebook.com/The Movie Guys, YouTube, iTunes, Instagram, all that nonsense for daily jokes, articles, media, links, and more. Thanks to Patrick Fabian.
Yay!
And see DriverX.
DRVRX.com.
There you go.
So it's driver to take the I and the
I
E
out.
out.
Yeah. You know, you follow us on DriverX Movie on Twitter, DriverX Movie on Instagram, and you catch it on platforms right now on iTunes, Google Play, all those places. Eventually, you will find it on Hulu.
There you go. And as ever, you can find everything we're up to, including reviews, articles, and more interviews like this at themovieguys.net. Thanks, Patrick.
Whee!